Hey guys, it's Miss Tapp here. I just wanted to go over some of the work that we've been doing in class. So during our synchronous sessions on Thursday and Friday in English 9, we're going to go over all of the answers to the questions for sections 1 through 4 of The Most Dangerous Game. So this is going through most of the exposition of the story, and we're just now barely getting into the conflict of the story. So let's go over this. Make sure you have the right answers. If you need to go back and change answers, Ms. Dangerfield and I highly encourage you to do that because we want to make sure that you have the right answers for all the things to the story. So we asked you who wrote The Most Dangerous Game. You would want to say Richard Connell for that one. Okay. Now this one, number 2, tricked a couple of people. It says, what is the setting of the story? Or what is the setting at the beginning of the story? So if you look through your choices, a yacht, Rainsford is definitely on a yacht. The Caribbean, they mentioned that they're in the Caribbean and they're headed to Rio to hunt jaguars. We know they're not in Virginia. So we know it's A and B. So what you need to mark here is this answer right here. We did give you partial credit, or I did, if you put a yacht or you put the Caribbean, but next time we won't be so nice. If you didn't put A and B, right, on an SOL test, they would count it wrong because they don't give partial credit, okay? This next one was tricky as well. It says, which of these statements show foreshadowing in the story? And if you notice it was worth 4 points, that should give you a clue that you're probably looking for 4 answers. So we did give partial credit to this one. So let's look. It says, off there to the right, somewhere is a large island, said Whitney. It's rather a mystery. So that's foreshadowing that something is kind of strange with the island. The next one says, the old charts call it Ship Trap Island, Whitney replied. So this one too, the title of the island, Ship Trap Island, that gives us some foreshadowing as well, that maybe this is a strange island that traps ships or something like that. A suggestive name, isn't it? Sailors have a curious dread of the place. I don't know why, some superstition. So that also tells us that sailors really dread this island. So we've got 3 answers here, right? Okay. Actually, I'm going to take off this one. The old charts call it Ship Trap Island because we haven't really discussed what that means yet at this point in the story. So I'm actually going to say, since I know I need 4, okay, let's make sure. No, I'll keep that one. I'm going to keep that one. There's 3. The best sport in the world, agreed Rainsford. So this one is not foreshadowing anything really in the story. So we're not going to count that. And then the next one, hardly, even cannibals wouldn't live in such a godforsaken place. But it's gotten into sailor lore, which is stories, somehow. Didn't you notice that the crew's nerves seemed a bit jumpy? So these 4 things give us some foreshadowing that there's going to be some really strange things with the island, okay? So that's for the section 1. So now we're going to go over our comprehension questions. So on this sheet, we've done day 2, 3, and 4, okay? We're starting section 5 either on Thursday or Friday, depending on whether you're a Rockin' R or a Bobcat. So questions for day 2. A lot of you got a little confused on number 2, and I want you to question 1 on day 2. There are 2 questions here. So first of all, make sure you write in complete sentences. And second of all, read both questions carefully. It says, to what South American city? So notice it's talking about a specific city. So we're looking for the name of a specific city, and you can go back to the story to find that. It says, to what South American city is Rainsford sailing at the beginning of the story? Well, he says that they are headed to Rio to hunt jaguars. So it says, what does he plan to do there? So you would put it in a complete sentence and say, he is headed to Rio to hunt jaguars, right? You need to write in a complete sentence. So for number 2, it says at the beginning of the story, Rainsford believes that animals are capable of reasoning and understanding, especially the fear of pain and the fear of death. Now, is this a true statement or a false statement? Did he believe that animals were capable of reasoning and understanding? So he's talking about, Whitney and Rainsford are talking about the fact, Whitney says, well, the jaguar, isn't looking forward to the hunt. And Rainsford says, oh, whatever, they have no understanding. There's hunters and there's hunties, and who cares what the jaguar feels? So that would indicate that actually Rainsford doesn't have a whole lot of sympathy for jaguars, nor does he feel like they can really think and reason and feel like humans can. So the next one, the line, the sea was as flat as a plate glass window. So that's a simile because it's using the word as. So what are we supposed to infer about the sea from this description? Well, if the sea is flat, that means there's no big waves in it. Like if the sea is like really unsettled, it'll have a lot of waves. So it's very calm. The sea is very, still and flat, and the sea is very calm. So that's lucky for Rainsford that the sea is calm, and it makes it a little bit easier for him to swim to the shore. So number 4, what events lead Rainsford to falling off the boat? Okay. Now remember, I want you to use complete sentences, but you could have done a list. So you might say, number 1, he heard a sound. Number 2, he kind of climbed up to hear what that sound was. Number 3, he, lost his pipe. He tries to reach for his pipe. He loses his balance and he falls off the boat. So some of you did a really good job of listing all of those things. Some of you kind of shortened it and just only listed a few, but that's the gist of it that you should get. Number 5, why did Rainsford stop trying to get the attention of anyone on the yacht? Well, he talks about how quickly the yacht is moving away from him, and he figures he doesn't want to waste his energy trying to get the attention of those on the yacht because it's moving so quickly away from him. Okay? So number 6, we have another simile. It says, what does the simile, the lights of the yacht became faint and ever vanishing fireflies? What does this show about his situation? So the lights of the yacht are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which means that the yacht is getting further and further and further away from Rainsford. And number 7, how would you be feeling at this point if you were Rainsford, and why? Some of you didn't answer this question. I think you were looking for an answer in the story. Don't be afraid to answer opinion questions. You might have said that you'd be really scared. You might have said that you would have been trying to do some really quick thinking so that you could find your way out of the situation. Some of you might have said, oh, I would have given up. It's too hard to swim that far. But this is your opinion, right? So you have to put your opinion in that section. So, questions for day 3. What sounds help Rainsford find his way to the shore, and what does this show about his character? So he hears gunshots, and he knows that if there's gunshots, there must be land nearby. And so he reasons really quickly that if there's gunshots, there's land. If he's near land, then he actually can swim and get to the shore. So it shows how smart he is, how quick thinking he is, how smart he is, and also how very determined he is. So this sentence, I suppose the first 3 shots I heard was when the hunter flushed his quarry and wounded it. So based on the context clues of this sentence, as well as anything else you might know about hunting, what does the underlined word most likely mean? So it should be see, to force out into the open, right? So you would just highlight this one, to force out into the open, right? Number 9, what convinces Rainsford that there is food on the island, right? Well, he realizes that there's been some hunting on the island. He realizes that where there's men, right, men that are hunting, where there is men, there is food. And so that, makes him really, again, use his critical thinking. If there are men on this island hunting, then there's got to be some food. So he set off to find that food because he was really hungry. So what is surprising about the fact that the hunter, excuse me, used a 22 to hunt with? So if you looked at the link or clicked on the picture of the 22, you see that a 22 is actually a pretty small gun. And if any of you go hunting, you know that you wouldn't hunt with a 22. It's too small or too light of a gun to hunt with. So what that shows is that the hunter is either really good or really brave to be hunting with a 22. So describe the house that Rainsford finally comes to at the end of this section. So first of all, it's a huge, huge mansion of a house. At first he thinks it's a whole city, but then he realizes that it's just one house and there's so many lights that it had made him think that it was a whole city. So also the house is kind of spooky looking. It has like gargoyles on it and big towers going up. So it almost kind of gives a feeling of like a haunted house or something really like dark and spooky. Predict what you think the owner of the house might be like. Do you have any clues to help you make this prediction? Okay, well, we don't know if the guy at the door is the owner of the house or not, right? But we get this feeling that they're not very welcoming of a stranger, but we don't really know if the guy holding the gun is the owner or not until we meet General Zaroff, right, in the next section, and then we find out, some things about General Zaroff. So we did have some clues. We had, the gun being pointed at Rainsford and that sort of thing, right? But again, this one was an opinion question. You were making a prediction about what you think the owner is going to be like. So this is our last section before we start part 5. So it says, which of the following disabilities does Ivan not suffer from? Well, he can hear, the general is signing to him, so we assume he can't hear, and we know he can't speak. But the thing that we absolutely know he can do is see. And notice this says, what disabilities does Ivan not suffer from? So pay attention to that word, not. That's really, really important that you pay attention to that word. So what we're talking about is what can he not, like, what does he not suffer from? Well, he can see, so he does not suffer from blindness. So describe General Zaroff in as much detail as you can. So we have details about his hair, about his beard, about sort of the way he was looking at Zaroff. He's very formal, very military-like. He comes down and salutes. He's very kind of like, he's friendly but stern, right? So we get this impression that he's a guy that is in charge of everything, right? He's very trained in military, and we get that idea from him, okay? Explain the relationship between General Zaroff and Ivan and include some details from the story. So we know that Ivan seems very loyal to General Zaroff, and they seem to kind of be friendly with one another, but we can tell that General Zaroff is the boss. And so if I say give some details from the story, let's go back to that story so that I can kind of show you how to give details from the story, okay? So I'm going to click on day 4 of our story, if my internet will cooperate with me, maybe. Well, I cannot do that for you guys because my internet is not working. All right, so let's just go back to the questions then. But you could go back to that story to get the details. I'm so sorry that my internet won't work and I can't get back to that story right now. So list some details that show that General Zaroff is wealthy. You could talk about the decorations in the house. You can talk about the types of food or beverages that the general is eating. You can talk about the place settings, the clothing. There's all sorts of details that show that General Zaroff is very wealthy and they're not hurting for anything on the island. He has everything that he could possibly want on the island. And again, you would go back to the story to get some specific examples. Most of you did a really good job with that question. All right, number 17, what animal does Rainsford say he has always thought was the most dangerous game? So he asks General Zaroff, he says, oh, was it the Cape Buffalo? He says, I've always thought that the Cape Buffalo is the most dangerous game. Now, General Zaroff says no, and we find out later that it's something else, but the Cape Buffalo is what Rainsford said he thought was the most dangerous game. So then it says, when Zaroff says, oh, it isn't here naturally, of course, I have to stock the island. What is he talking about? What do you think he stocks on the island? And again, I don't think we've quite gotten to what he's actually stocking the island with. So you were supposed to make sort of a guess here about what you think he stocks the island with that is the most dangerous game. Okay? So once you've checked your answers for parts 1 through 4, then you can watch Miss Dangerfield's screencastify of reading part 5, and then you can start answering the questions for part 5. Notice it's not that much. It's just question 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Okay? This is where we are going to find out kind of the conflict of the story and what is really strange about General Zaroff and Ship Trap Island. This is where the story starts to get more exciting. Okay? So hopefully this has helped you with your questions. And if you have any additional questions that I didn't go over, feel free to email me or email Miss Dangerfield, and we can give you more support on the questions. So I hope everyone's doing well, and we will see you in our synchronous sessions.